Good morning, everybody. Welcome to class today. Thank you for joining me. Whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording, I just appreciate the fact that you're watching, right? Because, that I hope you guys are going to get something out of this stuff, right? So at the end of the day, that's what we want. So just to get us started today, I want to take a few minutes, just take a little time, and just clear up some questions that I received about the final project. So let's just start with a little bit of an announcement this morning to just make these things just as clear as possible. So it requires either a YouTube or a Twitch and 2 other platforms. We're going to talk about platforms today, so it kind of relates into that. The other platforms that you choose can be any social media platforms that you think will reach the audience for your primary platform, the Twitch or the YouTube. It can be Twitter, it can be Instagram, it can be Facebook, it can be TikTok, it can be whatever. You do not have to turn the posting requirement log in every week. Part of the assignment is you being able to create your own schedule and post on your own schedule without being held accountable every single week. You'll turn in your posting requirement log at the midterm, right? It asks for it at the midterm, and with your final report when you turn in your final project. So you only turn in the posting requirement log twice. Now I can look through that posting requirement log and see the posts that you made and go back and verify that you actually made them every single week when you said you were going to make them. But as a social media manager for a company or for a small business or whatever, nobody's going to be holding your feet to the fire to ensure that you create a posting schedule and stick to it. So the ability to kind of create your own posting schedule, one that meets the needs of your audience, and that's something that really we'll talk about in the live class next week, and sticking to that throughout the semester. And your approach and the way you handle things might change, and that's fine. Right? You might try a few weeks on a certain platform, realize your audience isn't there, and have to switch and go to a different platform. Right? You want to just try to figure out your audience, figure out who you're trying to reach, figure out where they're at. Right? And these are the types of things that we're covering in the first few modules here. So the more you learn, the more your opinions on that might change. And so your social media approach might change, and that's fine. One of the things that I like to see is I do like to see the plan kind of grow and evolve over time. Again, if you need any help with video creation or have questions about that, that's what that YouTube 101 module is there for. You can look through that to get certain ideas from it. If you have other questions that you think would help you or would help maybe benefit everybody, let me know. If it's just something specific for you, I can show you some things. If it is something that might benefit everybody, I can make a video and I can put it in that YouTube 101 section so it can be something that helps everybody. Right? If we took the time to kind of go through media creation and all that kind of stuff, we really wouldn't have the opportunity to do everything else. And the media and the things that we're creating, it doesn't have to be elaborate, right? Like Some of the things that you see on social media is highly edited, and some of the things are not highly edited and are just really basic and really simple. And, one of the things that we'll talk about as we kind of progress is how each of these different types of content can make that happen, or make something happen for their brand. Right? Because highly produced, very polished content that's been edited and had a lot of skill applied to it is nice to to promote certain things. But content that's kind of lower quality, maybe not as highly produced, is relatable. And it can help create a conversation with your audience and help create a connection there. So there's places for everything. So maybe just because you think that your videos aren't as highly polished as you might like them to be, it might be a good thing, right? So that's a point there. So just to kind of sum all that up, remember it's either YouTube or Twitch and 2 other platforms of your choosing. You are on your own to kind of develop your own schedule, because that's going to be different for everybody. I just want you doing at least one a week. You kind of have to hold yourself accountable to be able to do that. Keep a record of it on your posting log. I'll collect your posting log at the midterm. I'll collect your posting log at the final. Everything's timestamped so I can see if you actually held to a weekly schedule or not. If things change over time, that's fine. If your videos and stuff isn't the best, that's also fine, right? It's all about practice and getting experience, and especially somebody who is learning programming and web development or office management in this area. If you get a job as a webmaster, you're probably going to get saddled as the social media marketing manager for that company as well, just because a lot of people like to think that's related. And it's also just another tool in your tool bag if, or when it comes time to look for jobs, that you can do some social media marketing. So with that out of the way, again, if you have any questions about that, please let me know. With that out of the way, let's talk about social media platforms. And so I want to talk about the different platforms today, and we'll talk a little bit about platform demographics. So when you think about, who is on this platform, who your audience is for your social media project, this might help you to pick some of those side platforms, some of those secondary platforms, so you can kind of have a good understanding of, okay, so the demographic that I'm looking for, the type of people that I'm looking for are here, right? They're reading blogs, or they're on Facebook, or they're on Instagram, or they're on TikTok, or whatever. And it's also just to give you an awareness of the different types of social media platforms that are out there, so you can understand, okay, these are my options. When I'm looking at social media and the ability to create community, because remember, it's like we said last week, a lot of this is around creating community. So a lot of it can apply to the real world and interaction with regular people as it does online, right? Because community building is similar in both aspects. So just where these communities are and how we can create and build and foster them. And so the first thing I want to talk about, or the first platform I want to talk about, is blogging. Blogging. So the early term blogger was actually coined by Jorn Barger back in December of 1997, right? So we are 25 years or so ago from that point. And it's a portmanteau where you take one word and smash it in with another word of web and log, right? We can think of a log like a journal. You know, if you've ever seen Star Trek, you know, it starts off with Captain's Log, right? And that's just sort of the Captain's Journal where they're going over the things that occurred that day. So we're using log in that sort of sense here. And it's a log that's on the World Wide Web, or a web log, and that was just shortened to blog. You know, we're logging the web and we're creating a journal on the web. And so that's where the term blog comes from. And it's been co-opted into new terms nowadays, like you've probably heard of vlog, right? Which is similar to a blog or a weblog. It's just a video log. So vlog, vlog. So, you know, we kind of taken this language and we've kind of co-opted it into other areas to represent different forms of media on social media. If it's written down, it's a blog. If it's video, it's a vlog. And they're hosted in many, many different places. So, you know, and the language evolved over time, right? It started out as weblog, then it was shortened to blog as kind of a joke, which stuck, right? And we use this term as both a noun and a verb, right? Like you can go to a website that has a blog on it, but the process of writing a blog is called blogging, right? So I can blog on my blog. Which is kind of weird to say. Right, but as we're thinking about what blogging is in terms of creating a community, it is a one-to-many platform with little interaction. In some cases, that could be no interaction. I say little interaction here because some blogs have a comment section where readers can leave comments. And so when we're thinking about a one-to-many platform, we're thinking about, you know, a low amount of conversation, right? On a blog, there's not a whole lot of back and forth, right? It's primarily just one person giving the entire spiel, and they might get some comments in response that they might respond to or might not. Right, so we can kind of think about this as like, you know, if somebody was standing in a public square with a bullhorn and they just had their message and they were just yelling it out to a crowd, whoever was listening to it was listening to it. And, you know, there's no real back and forth there because the person with the bullhorn or the microphone or whatever, they're louder than everybody. So they kind of, their voice rises above anybody else's. And so anybody talking around them doesn't really get heard as much. Right? And it's the same sort of thing that we're talking about here with a one-to-many platform, which is our blog, right? Like whoever posted the blog writer, is the person with the bullhorn, and they're just blasting their message out there. A lot of people could be listening to it. Very few people could be listening to it. Right? It's just sort of a shotgun approach, for lack of a better word there. Right? We're just going to throw this out there. We're just going to kind of yell it out. And if people read it, great. And if they don't, well, not so great. Right? But also it's fine because we're still going to keep doing it. And so when we think of a blog in that sort of way for our purposes, one of the ways that we might have done a sort of project like this previously, you know, for our final project and thinking about it in that sort of way, one of the ways that we might have done this is started with a blog as our baseline primary social media platform. Because it kind of creates our product. right? If you think about different blogs that you might have seen, they might have tips about certain things. They might have recipes. They might have video game cheats or video or reviews of movies or whatever, right? So in that sort of way, that social media becomes the product, because the interaction and the community building aspect of it isn't quite there as much. And so in our case, the interaction and the community building, in terms of the product that we create, we're just doing it in video form. Because if we do something in video form and we put it on YouTube and we send people back to YouTube, YouTube is a highly used platform. If we create our own blogs, then we could just be writing nothing that no one will ever read. And it's hard to get real experience with something that, doesn't get any traction. Now, it is likely that you could use a blog to kind of relate to a YouTube, right? Like one of the things that, I've seen people do in other aspects, especially if they're larger organizations or larger, with a larger community, is that you have a website, which is basically a blog, and you have a YouTube channel. And then on your website, you can post the video, and alongside the video, post some anecdote about shooting the video, or some behind-the-scenes information, or some more director's commentary about the video that they wouldn't get from the YouTube video itself. Right, so it presents a value add to the YouTube video that you can get through the blog. So you can take people from your YouTube, drive them back to your blog, and then use, say, a Twitter to drive traffic to both. Right? So, that's one of the big things that we're doing to kind of look at community and offering information. Right? Like the thing with the whole introductory post is, you can't really be afraid to share when you're getting into social media. And there is an aspect of oversharing that we'll talk about later on in the semester when we get into more of ethics and ethical concerns and things of that nature. But when it comes to kind of promoting a business, whether it's a small business or a personal self-owned business, and you're trying to get information out there about your products, whatever that product might be, or maybe the product is a social media platform like a produced YouTube channel, then having these different pieces working together creates a value add and can help bolster the community. Now, there are different types of blogs that exist out there. Right? There are personal blogs. There are blogs that people write about their own lives. There are collaborative blogs, right? And so typically when we see something of a collaborative blog, we see a singular topic, and we see multiple people that are writing articles for that singular topic. And, it's almost like when we think about a collaborative blog, it's kind of like a news site without news. Like, some of you might be familiar with the music review website Pitchfork. Right? It's essentially just a blog where they do music reviews. And so each new album gets its own blog post, and these blog posts are written by different individuals. So you have different individuals who might specialize in different genres of music, writing reviews and contributing it to this one central source, which is the blog. A corporate blog, which a corporate blog is a blog that's produced by a corporation. We have something here at Cleveland Community College that we might consider to be a corporate blog. Like there is a CCC blog that exists out there. But when we're looking at blogs from a corporate aspect, these are typically more like just press releases that people put out in a specific way. Right? It's really easy to put out press releases in a blog because blogs typically use an RSS feed, so any news outlets that might want to be able to stay abreast of the information that's going on at your company or at your organization can subscribe to the RSS feed and get the new posts sent to them in an RSS reader. And so it just kind of gets sent out and aggregated immediately without having to send it out yourselves. But typically what we see there is just a lot of press releases in a corporate blog. Just, we made this revenue this quarter, or we got this new product coming out, or the president said this, as we get ready to start our new fiscal year or whatever. Then we have something that I find to be a gray area, but it is something that is very common, and that is an aggregated blog. So with an aggregated blog, you have a central blog that takes blog posts from different blogs that might be related to a certain topic and houses them all together. So nobody's actually writing content specifically for this particular blog. They're just aggregating stories from other blogs and putting it onto a central blog so people can have a central hub to go to if they're interested in a certain topic without having to follow 5, 6, 7, 8 blogs. Right? I think that's done a lot probably in, I don't know why I would phrase it that way. It's done a lot in like sports media. Right? So if you're interested in, say, a particular team, somebody might create a blog for that team, and they might get blog posts or news articles from different individuals. Say like you follow the Charlotte Hornets, for example, and somebody makes a blog about the Charlotte Hornets, and they take articles like, Waj posted this about LaMelo Ball, and this blog post came from the official Charlotte Hornets blog, and this blog post came from this sports reporter, and they just take it and they just put them all together on a central blog. So you have one home to go to get all of that news about the thing that you like, and typically so they don't get into any trouble, they provide attribution, link backs to the original blog, although that doesn't always happen, right? But typically in an aggregated blog, we see little to no original content being created. A microblog. Microblogs can encapsulate a lot of different things, right? It all depends on how you use the platform. Twitter is considered to be a microblog. If we look at vlogging in relation to blogging, which we talked about vlogging being a video blog or a video log, we could consider platforms like TikTok to be microvlog platforms, right? Where you're creating, a minute-long video, YouTube Shorts. If YouTube is, YouTube is to vlog, as YouTube Shorts is to microvlog, or Instagram Reels, or TikTok, right? So kind of what we're seeing here is that even though we have these new platforms, there's nothing really new under the sun, right? It's just the way that we've kind of changed and adapted these different platforms. And so I do have a list of free blogging platforms here. The first three here being Blogger.com, WordPress.com, and Wix.com. right? And one thing that's kind of unique about these three sites in particular, Blogger, WordPress, and Wix, is that they allow you to kind of create your own personal blog, which is good in some instances, right? Like if you just want to kind of keep a record for yourself, maybe something for you and your friends to kind of follow along. You know, having your own personal blog is pretty cool. If you want to have something that is strictly dedicated to an organization, a business, like if you want to do a corporate blog, typically you do that on your own website. But if you're a small business and don't have a lot of money to put into it, and you want to do something similar, you might use one of these platforms. So you can brand it and kind of control user flow and user comments that are going in and out of your blog. But one of the things that's kind of negative about these three platforms is that they silo your information. Right? So since it's your own self-controlled platform, there's nothing else that's driving any traffic to get to there. Right? You're responsible for trying to drum up all the traffic. Whereas with Medium, LinkedIn, and Tumblr, these are interconnected platforms where you have different blogs interconnected to one another. Right? You know, LinkedIn, an ideal blogging platform, right? Remember that LinkedIn is a professional social media platform. But writing blog articles on LinkedIn, I know of having helped people get jobs. Right? Because it's another way to show that you know what you're talking about. So if you have a blog on your LinkedIn that's about the things that you want to do as a career, and you're talking, you know, intelligently about things that you want to do as a career, people can see your blog, people can get recommended your blog, and they can say, hey, not only does that person want to do this, but they actually know what they're talking about because they've written it down in paragraph format here. And so that can help you get jobs if you were to do that. Medium and Tumblr being interconnected. Medium is kind of interesting because Medium is actually monetizable. And they're interconnected, and when things are interconnected, they can use algorithms to suggest content. So if a user really likes posts of a certain type, they might get suggested your posts because they kind of fall in that line. And so that's kind of the big difference here between the first three and the second three, being the first three are kind of siloed. They're kind of on their own, where you're responsible for drumming up all your own traffic. The bottom three has algorithms in place where they can suggest your content to other people who seem to have enjoyed similar content. So it's a little more Wild West in the bottom three in terms of controlling your audience, but you have to do a little less work in terms of getting an audience to where you're at, which is significant. Another thing that you can do to kind of get started with blogging is to do some guest blogging, which is interesting, right? Content is king, and producing content in 2023 is like the biggest thing, right? Like a lot of people don't even care what the content is, which we've kind of seen that with the rise of like AI generated content recently. Since content's king, people don't really care how you get it. So as such, many blogs are often, kind of willing to let other people write posts for them because I need content. And it's also a good way to kind of cross-advertise, right? Advertise your platform on another platform. Because they'll give you a byline, and they'll say, oh, this person wrote this article, they're from whatever.com. So I have here that you Google blog plus write for us. And let's just do that really quickly. I'll do that in another window here. Blog plus write for us. And we'll see the kind of things that we get here. Right? We see all these sites. Creately. Chanty. Stackify. Rankwatch. Practical Wanderlust. Right? They give you an idea of like, okay, this is what we're looking for in a blog post. For example, this is the Creately. Write for Us page here. They give you the topics that they cover. They give you what they want to see in a post. They want it to be relevant, well-researched, 1,000 plus words with actionable tips, 100% original and unpublished anywhere else. They tell you what they like, topics they like to cover: visual collaboration, visual project management, business and technical diagramming, visual problem solving. And tells you the benefits that you get out of it. And in this case, it's exposure, right? It's being able to cross-list your brand with their brand. So you get the byline, right? If we look at let's see if we can look at their blog here and see if they have any guest posts and how they treat them. They might or they might not. All right, because just because they asked for it doesn't mean that they get it. And so this appears to be internal. All of those are probably internal. Let's see if we can... They probably don't get very many submissions, but that's a thing. Let's just click on one of these randomly, see if it has a byline. Because typically if it was written by someone else, it would have a byline or a bio. There we go, author bio. So you'd have something like this in the article that would give you your link back. Right? This one was Jessica Robinson, who creates content for the Speaking Polymath. Short little bio, links back to her LinkedIn. Right, so this was a contributed blog post from a contributor. It does say here that they don't pay, which, as long as they're upfront about it, cool. But that's an option, right? To try to, if you got some other platform and you want to try to get it out there, that's an option for things that you can do there. Let's speed through some other stuff here so we don't take too long. Right? We could talk about Facebook. Facebook is kind of another blog, right? Like basically what you can do on Facebook is essentially blog, but it is more interactive than a regular blog. So, that's one of the reasons, but Facebook is also so entirely massive that it can kind of be considered its own thing. And Facebook's actually the second most widely used platform, the most widely used platform being YouTube. But one of the things that we can see here is that demographically, the average Facebook user is a woman between the ages of 30 and 49 years old. Right? So a millennial to a younger Gen X female, basically, is who we're looking at as the primary Facebook user. And when we say average Facebook user, we're taking all of the demographics, like gender and age and race and all these kind of things. And we're just kind of averaging them out. And so if we take the average of all of those, what we're left with is the average user. More men than women versus more women than men, right? In this case with Facebook, more women than men are using the platform. And when we look at ages, they're typically a little older. So on and so forth. So like if I was trying to get older teens and younger 20-somethings to buy my product, I probably wouldn't do a lot of social media marketing on Facebook. I might do a little bit, right? Depending on what my depending on what my product is. Because the teens and younger 20-somethings might not be on Facebook, but their parents might. And the parents are the ones with the disposable income. So, if I wanted to market a certain product to a 16, 17-year-old, I'd put a lot of marketing on TikTok and Instagram. But I'd do a little bit of marketing, depending on what the product is, on Facebook. So the mom or dad of that 16, 17-year-old could see the product, become aware of the product. And if their teen says, oh, hey, I want this, they can say, oh, yeah, I saw that. Let's get that for your birthday or for Christmas or whatever, right? So when we're thinking about what we're doing on the social media platforms, like these demographics matter a lot. Facebook is still typically a one-to-many platform, although it is more interactive. Many people also use Facebook for its alternative functions, which is outside of the profile page. So when we think of outside the profile page, we're thinking about Facebook groups, we're thinking about Facebook pages, we're thinking about Facebook Marketplace. Right? So your personal profile is sort of secondary to some of the things, right? Like, in terms of my Facebook, I have a Facebook. I don't use it personally, basically at all, right? I might kind of check and see what my friends are up to. But most of what I'm doing with my Facebook profile is managing the Facebook pages of other organizations. So I don't even use the primary function. I use more of the alternative functions of Facebook. So that's something to consider. Right, is not just having a page, but having a group. Right, so if you have this Facebook group where people are encouraged to post their own things, where you might be able to content farm a little bit for other stuff, right, you can encourage more interaction and help build a community better. Talk about microblogging. So in terms of microblogging, we're talking blogging, but smaller. And we primarily mean Twitter, right? Like we mentioned that we mean Twitter when we're talking about microblogging. But when we're thinking about things like Instagram, specifically Instagram Reels, TikTok, the Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, basically any short video service, we can kind of think about that as micro vlogging, right? So where blog is to microblog, vlog is to TikTok or what have you, right? So primarily we're looking at Twitter here. Twitter's the big one. Twitter forces you into microblogging by establishing a character limit of 280 characters per tweet. That was truer last year than it is now. Now you can pay for a fake check mark that will allow you to make longer tweets. I didn't update my slide here on Twitter for this year, although we might take one of these live classes in the future and just kind of break down Twitter and all the things that are going on with it. We do have a module that's on like reputation management and how you deal with disaster on social media. And that might be a good time to talk about some of this stuff. But one of the big pluses of Twitter, or really any micro type platform, is that it's highly interactive. Right? So we see kind of the same things in Twitter and TikTok. We just see them in text versus in video. Right? The ability to correspond with other users. Right? In Twitter, we have, replying and liking and retweeting to share. Whereas, in TikTok, we have stitching and we have liking and commenting. Stitching being the big one, where you can kind of have a conversation via stitches. And typically the demographic of these platforms skews a little younger. The average Twitter user is male, between the ages of 18 and 29. So that's a pretty big difference between the average Twitter user and the average Facebook user. So we talk about that in that sort of respect. So we can see like who is my target audience? Who is my target customer? Who do I want consuming my content? If they kind of fall into this block, we might put more effort into one place. Whereas if they fall into another block, if my average customer was a 24-year-old male, I'd put more effort into Twitter. If my average customer was a 32-year-old female, I'd put more effort into Facebook, things like that. Multimedia in general, I have one example of other multimedia platforms. And the first one kind of encompasses all of it now that they are really doing video a lot, and that's Instagram. So the primary focus of Instagram is on photos and short form videos, which they call Reels, right? And so Reels sort of came in response to other companies that were doing things, right? Like, we saw Vine. Some of you, many of you, all of you might remember Vine from, believe it or not, it's been like 8-9 years ago now. Like I think Vine died in like 2016. So it was started a few years before that. Which is pretty wild to think about. It just means we're all getting older, right? But Vine came about. Vine's incredibly short form video, 6-7 seconds worth of video that looped. So it got you into this content loop, and you could kind of, there's its own ethical and moral quandaries about, content loops and things of that nature. But the big deal of it was that it was short form and it was ephemeral and it was quick, right? So you could kind of go to Vine and you get that quick dopamine hit of haha funny video and see several others, right? And so with that success, like Vine boomed, right? And then other companies started co-opting short form video. Instagram being one of the first, right, with the Instagram Reels. Instagram Reels have been around for a while now. Didn't start out that great, but they've gotten a whole lot better in terms of how they handle things. Basically, as other companies came along, they basically just co-opted things that other companies did, right? Because, out of Vine kind of grew Musical.ly, and then Musical.ly merged with TikTok. And so now some of the things that Musical.ly and TikTok were doing early on that proved to be incredibly successful, that's going into the new YouTube, the new Instagram Reels. things like infinite scrolling, right? You can kind of do infinite scrolling and see different things and a whole bunch of stuff. Right, we can see Instagram primarily skews female, but it also skews younger female. So whereas the person on Facebook is a woman, they are typically a little older. Instagram, a little younger. Which is kind of wild when you consider that they're both owned by the same company, Meta, at this point. Right? So, something interesting to think about. YouTube, which is our big platform. YouTube is the most widely used social media platform. Focuses on video, long form and short form video, right? We got shorts now. And live streaming. Which live streaming is huge, right? YouTube wasn't the first to live stream, right? We had Justin TV, which was kind of the first big one that came about. Justin TV was around, goodness, 15 years ago. And Justin TV became Twitch. And Twitch kind of dominated the live streaming space for a long time. Now, I don't know. I think they're kind of losing that grip a little bit now. They're still huge. But I do think they're kind of losing the grip on live streaming. But the big thing that YouTube is actually focusing their algorithm on now is shorts, which are less than a minute, up to a minute, I guess I should say. So a short video is up to a minute. It can be filmed vertically. Ideally, it should be filmed vertically, but it can also be filmed horizontally. And all you have to do to make it a short is you have to tag your video as a short, hashtag shorts, when you post it. And YouTube's been doing a lot with shorts, especially recently, to promote them because they see the successes that are going on TikTok, on Instagram, on these other places, right, with short form video. And so they're trying to cash in on that, right? Like, YouTube was the first to the game in terms of, being able to post video online in a format that's easy to use and easy to distribute. But everything else, they're kind of a little later to the game on, right? Live streaming, short form video, which is understandable when you think about how massive YouTube is and what, their primary business really is. Demographically, the average YouTube user, I've left Facebook on here, I guess, when I copied and pasted, but the average YouTube user is a male between the ages of 18 and 29, so a younger male. Right, one of the things that we've kind of discussed before is that, in a survey that was conducted, 80% of people reported that, when they go to try to learn something for the first time, one of the first stops that they make is YouTube, which is one of the reasons why I do these live classes on YouTube, right? Because, one of the things that we'll talk about in the upcoming modules as we kind of progress is, when we're finding a community, you want to go to where they are. You don't want to make them come to you. So if I want to create educational content, I want to go to where people are looking for educational content and put educational content there. And so if 80% of people are looking for educational content on YouTube, whenever they're trying to learn something new, I want to go to where those people are. It just makes a lot of sense. Right, so the average YouTube user is a male between the ages of 18 and 29 years old. Finally, podcasts focus on a distribution of audio. Occasionally video, if you do a video podcast, which those are typically just YouTube videos. But one of the big things about true podcasts is their distribution allows them to be automatically downloaded. Right? So you don't have to go out and seek it. You can subscribe to it and have the new episode delivered to you. And then you can listen to it in the car or whatever. SoundCloud being a popular podcasting platform. Podbean being more of a true podcasting platform. Because it provides you with the RSS feeds and you can link it to iTunes and Spotify and other platforms that are providing these things. And then Spotify itself has started to become a bigger podcasting platform within the last year, right? Within the last couple years, I guess. As they've been starting to pay for exclusive rights to specific podcasts and create podcasts that are specifically for them, right? Because at the end of the day, what we get back to is this idea that content is king, and we don't necessarily care what that content is. We just need it, right? Because we need to have more things for people to listen to or more things for people to watch, right? I mean, streaming services are kind of all based around this idea that content is king, right? Like, the vast majority of Netflix or the vast majority of Disney Plus, people don't watch regularly. But it allows them to say, we have 10,000 hours of content or whatever in their advertising. Even if people only watch a small fraction of it. They can boast a big number. And in social media, one of the things it starts to seem like is the bigger the number, the better you are. Which again, as we kind of progress there, we're going to talk more about ethics. We're going to talk more about why that really kind of isn't the case. And all that fun stuff. And that's really all that I have for you for today. So we'll go ahead and stop there. Next week, we'll talk more about how we use these platforms, like some posting strategies and things of that nature, just so we can kind of ensure the biggest return on our investment. Some different things that we can do for all of that. If anybody who's here with me live has any questions, feel free to ask. We'll kind of hold a minute for questions here. We got a little bit of time. We haven't quite hit our hour yet. We're pretty close, though. If anybody live has any questions, send them my way. And if you're watching the recording, right, and you think of a question, feel free to send it my way. Doesn't even have to be related to specifically the content. If you have a question about anything else social media related, send it my way and I can answer it for you, or maybe we could talk about it on a future live stream. Thank you for coming, Sierra. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and leave it here. We'll hang out for a few more minutes with the music playing just in case there is anything. Again, if you're watching the recording, have questions, let me know. Send me a Teams message. Send me an email. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.